9. Mike Tyson vs. drunk fan. During a late-night commercial flight from San Francisco to Florida earlier this year, Mike Tyson found himself stuck sitting in front of an allegedly drunk and very annoying passenger named Melvin Townsend III. At first, Tyson entertained the fellow traveler's excitement and even honored his request to take a selfie together. But things took a troubling turn when the former pro boxer asked for some peace and quiet, and Townsend allegedly continued being disruptive. An anonymous insider told TMZ that Townsend wouldn't stop talking to Tyson and even threw a water bottle at him, despite the famously hot-tempered heavyweight champ's pleas to be left alone. In an alarming but arguably predictable confrontation that was captured on camera, Tyson snapped and punched Townsend repeatedly. He then got off the plane, which had just landed at its destination. Townsend initially lawyered up and pushed for criminal charges against Tyson, but the district attorney declined to pursue the case, citing the circumstances surrounding the confrontation. Tyson opened up about the incident on his Hot Boxing podcast, stating that his wife had been telling him not to fly on public planes due to people's tendency to get excited near him. But he evidently gave commercial flying another chance just 2 months after the ordeal, when he was seen entering LAX to catch a plane. 8. Social distancing squabble. A woman named Kyla was shopping with a friend recently at a Home Depot in Marina Del Rey, California, when a fellow shopper asked the pair to maintain 6 feet, 1.8 meters of social distancing space as recommended over COVID-19 guidelines. Kyla later told local station ABC7 that she and her friend were waiting in line at the self-checkout when it happened, and that they complied with the woman's request and backed up. At that point, the shopper allegedly asked them if they had something to say. She then grabbed Kyla's hair and started punching her in the head. Bystanders sprang into action and pulled the crazed customer off Kyla, who then dialed 911. The attacker left the store, but reportedly went back inside and attacked Kyla's friend. Eventually, she left for good. It doesn't make sense that someone would ask for space and then get closer to the person for the sake of hitting them, making it questionable whether the disgruntled shopper was truly concerned about social distance or if she started problems with the women for some other reason. 7. EZEQUIEL ZAYAS. After spending a week away from their Honolulu home in 2019 with their 2 young sons, James and Brittany Campbell found a bicycle sitting outside their house. When James tried to open the front door, a man pulled it shut from inside and calmly said, "This is not your home." Brittany dialed 911 while her husband went into the house with a sledgehammer and got the unwelcome visitor to leave. Police identified the suspect as 23-year-old EZEQUIEL ZAYAS and charged him in connection with the home invasion. But this was just the start of what would prove to be a long and drawn-out nightmare for the Campbells, who found their home in complete disarray. Even more disturbingly, the couple found a series of alarming diary entries on one of their laptops. Based on the details in the sinister writings, including family members' medical information, it was clear that the intruder had been in the family's home since long before their recent vacation. He left a collection of knives next to the computer, along with a manifesto detailing gruesome plans to perform experimental surgeries on the Campbells. It was then that Brittany and James began to reflect on some strange things that had happened in recent months, including a webcam that turned on in the middle of the night, doors that were unexplainably left open, items disappearing here and there, and their dog randomly barking for no reason. The couple has no idea how long ZAYAS was in their house. They shared their experience in the new Lifetime channel series Frogging, which features true stories about complete strangers secretly living inside people's homes, often for weeks or months at a time. For now, the Campbells can rest assured that they're safe from ZAYAS, who was charged with murder in an unrelated case after being removed from the family's property. He was declared mentally incompetent to stand trial and is at a state mental hospital until his condition improves enough for the proceedings to continue. 6. Nicki Minaj. Singer Nicki Minaj recently traveled to London to headline the Wireless Music Festival and came face-to-face with a mob of out-of-control fans during a meet and greet. She had previously announced on Instagram that she would be holding the upcoming event at a cafe in North London around noon. Hundreds of people showed up hoping to see the star, who didn't show up until 6 o'clock p.m. By then, the area surrounding the cafe was so packed that Nicki initially wasn't even able to exit the car she arrived in, which was instantly swarmed by a crowd who chased after the vehicle and banged on the windows. After seeing footage of the adoring throngs of hopeful fans, she posted a tweet urging everyone to get into an organized line and that she couldn't leave the vehicle until the scene was more orderly. NICKI continued pleading with the crowd in person as she tried making her way toward the cafe. Police had to form a protective barrier around her just to get her safely through the front doors. At some point during the chaos, MINAJ cautioned fans to back up, and when one admirer didn't listen, the singer pushed her out of the way. The fan posted footage of the incident on TikTok. Based on her caption, she wasn't upset that NICKI had shoved her. In fact, she seemed more starstruck than anything, writing, "My fave literally touched me." 5. David Mulder. A 50-year-old Australian man named David Mulder first made news headlines in 2013 when he was working as a human statue in the coastal Queensland town of Surfers Paradise. The street performer became annoyed by a man who was harassing him and punched the spectator in the head. Just months later, Mulder found himself on the receiving end of an attack when a large man came up behind him and put his arms around the performer's neck. The alarming encounter happened while Mulder was taking a donation from a 3-year-old boy and was captured on video. A struggle ensued between the two men while the little boy and several other witnesses watched. The witness who shared the footage online said that 4 police officers quickly arrived at the scene, where they threw Mulder's attacker onto the concrete, handcuffed him, and took him into custody. Police identified the suspect as 42-year-old Craig Andrew Poyer and slapped him with several charges, including assault, public nuisance, obstructing police, and willful damage. Poyer pleaded guilty to the charges and admitted that he was drunk when he committed the crime. In a strange twist, the man's lawyer told the court that Poyer and Mulder had actually become friends through a local church as his client worked through his alcohol abuse issues and focused on turning his life around. Poyer apologized to his victim and was sentenced to a year of probation and 100 hours of community service. He was also ordered to pay $1,000 in restitution for damage he caused to a police vehicle. Not everyone is a big fan of street performers. Many people see them as public nuisances who often harass tourists for tips. And while it's unclear whether Poyer had a personal disdain for entertainers when he assaulted Mulder, most rational-minded people would agree that there's rarely, if ever, a good reason for committing an unprovoked attack against a complete stranger. 4. Julius Francis. Former heavyweight boxer Julius Francis, who once fought Mike Tyson, recently lost his security license after knocking out a rowdy visitor at the Box Park Wembley Culture and Food Festival in London. The 57-year-old was working as a bouncer at the event when a group of men started behaving aggressively. Viral footage of the altercation shows one of the men yelling obscenities and walking toward Francis with his hands raised as the security guard steps backwards, as if to avoid escalating the situation. But when the belligerent bloke refused to back down, Francis knocked him out with a single punch to the head. He regained consciousness and left the scene before police arrived. Despite losing his security license, Francis received a glowing reference from his manager, who described the former boxing champion as one of the nicest men I've ever met. Eyewitnesses and surveillance footage also support the former bouncer's claims that he did nothing to provoke the man and punched him in self-defense. Speaking to TMZ Sports, Francis said that the police were right in their decision to arrest him, and that it's their job to respond to reports of doormen being violent. In other words, he understood that the cops were just doing their job. But Francis also continues to maintain his innocence, and has pointed out that the problematic group of men had already become violent toward other bouncers and some patrons before he clocked one of them in the face. Police ultimately decided against charging Francis, but he remains out of work due to his security license being suspended. It's unclear whether he plans to pursue another line of work or if there's any chance of him getting his license back. 3. Al Sutcliffe. After seeing a man repetitively annoy his friend during a night out drinking in 2014, a young Toronto man named Al Sutcliffe decided to take matters into his own hands and play a so-called pizza slap prank on the irritating stranger. He approached the man in a fast food line, held his hand out to greet him, and then slapped him across the face with a slice of pizza. The prank victim initially seemed stunned by the act and began angrily shouting at Sutcliffe while the pizza slapper simply laughed about the incident. But he wasn't grinning for long before the slappy turned the tables and struck back, punching Sutcliffe in the head and knocking him out cold. Viral footage posted to Sutcliffe's YouTube account revealed that he was unconscious for around 2 minutes before nearby diners came to his aid. Even after being hit and injured in retaliation for the pizza prank, Sutcliffe seemed to take a humorous approach to the situation, writing in the video's caption, "Warning, slapping people across the face with a slice of pizza could potentially get you sucker punched from behind." 2. Darryl Minter. In 2016, 30-year-old Darryl Minter was filmed punching a man and knocking him unconscious outside a Philadelphia nightclub. Footage of the confrontation showed a man walking up to Minter and asking him an inaudible question before saying, "Now if you hit me and you swing and you miss, can I still go inside?" Minter shook his head as the man continued talking. Then he suddenly took a swing to the man's face, causing him to lose consciousness and fall onto the sidewalk. The video ended there and was posted online for a brief period before being removed. A witness told NBC Philadelphia that the victim had been kicked out of the club earlier that night and that he repeatedly asked Minter to strike him in the face and let him back in the club if he missed. It's probably safe to assume that the bouncer finally decked the man because he got fed up with his persistent efforts to regain entry into the venue. The witness further clarified that the victim was fine, despite going to the hospital in an ambulance with a gash on his forehead. A club spokesperson told NBC 10 that Minter was employed as a security guard by the company that the business contracted his bouncers through, but that he wasn't working at the time of the incident. He condemned the off-duty doorman's behavior and confirmed that he had been fired. Minter was arrested several weeks later after he was identified as the attacker in the video. Authorities charged him with aggravated assault, simple assault, and reckless endangerment. The outcome of the case is unclear. 1. Danny Anderson. 32-year-old father of 3 Danny Anderson was working as a security guard at an Asda supermarket in Essex, England late last year, when a man tried stealing and allegedly began threatening workers and customers. Staff members kicked the disruptive shopper out twice that day, but he continued to hang around the store's entrance and soon targeted Anderson with his rage. The confrontational customer charged toward the security guard while reaching into his pocket. Fearful that the man was about to pull out a knife, Anderson knocked him out with a single punch to the head and then dragged him out of the store. Emergency responders were called to the scene, but by the time they arrived, the problematic patron had regained consciousness and fled the scene. In the meantime, Anderson remained calm and advised his manager to close the store. He'd torn his hand open during the encounter and received medical treatment for the wound. Anderson later told The Sun that he was just doing his job of protecting himself, his colleagues, and the hundreds of customers who were in the store at the time. He also pointed out that he was quick to spring into action because at his £9 per hour wage, his job wasn't worth losing his life over. Anderson's higher-ups at Asda seemed less than impressed in a statement, which said that the company did not tolerate violence whatsoever and that an investigation into the altercation was underway. But Anderson told the press that staff members were being incredibly supportive of him as he faced allegations that his self-defense was racially motivated. He said that the accusation hurt because it was untrue and stood by his decision to protect himself and those around him from someone he had reason to believe was dangerous. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have a roommate who thinks it's okay to walk into your bedroom without knocking and to go in there when you're not home, or get stuck standing between 2 people with COVID-19 symptoms on a crowded subway? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.